You look marvelous.
Are you ready?
Okay, now this thing will do about 170 minutes, and what I don't know is, the first time I'm doing anything with these. I'm not sure what, but I'm going to have to kind of watch it, because there's a meter on there telling you how many minutes it's already in, so if I forget or whatever, but in between while I get the speaker started, I should be able to come up here and kind of, I figure, somewhere about 12:30, it's probably going to be running out, and I got to put the second shift in. So, anyway, that's like it.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to get started because we have a very tight schedule. But I wanted to welcome everyone here this morning. A few housekeeping items. There is, unfortunately, no lunch outside. We thought maybe we'd get a wagon or something so people would not have to go far to eat. But we understand you have to take bathroom breaks, you have to nourish yourselves. But we do want you to be here as much as possible until we finish. The end panel discussion will be very important. We'll be getting Dr. Steele's input into that. He's with us here today from Houston. Hello, Jim. And we'll be really wanting an interactive discussion during the panel to address the challenge. We really hope that everyone can be here for the entire session. We think this is going to be a very important event, and we're going to have some orders to follow afterward. Welcome to the James Steele Challenge, A Better World Through One Health. We are readdressing the challenge made by Director of CDC Joe Mountain in 1945 to Jim about 56 years ago, and responding to Jim Steele's question to us today: what are us veterinarians, what are we going to do in the next 100 years for veterinary public health? We intend to recognize achievements and advance the One Health philosophy by engaging leaders today in both animal and human health to address priority challenges. The focus of this one-day session will be to enunciate a comprehensive vision for the profession in the 21st century, which will leverage our expertise and diversity to address society's most pressing needs. The highest priority challenges will include today's discussions on water and food security, emerging infectious diseases, climate change, antimicrobial resistance, and veterinary education that is needed to create our future leaders. With no further ado, Dr. Steele.
My relation with the American Veterinary Medical Association dates back many years. When I came into the world 100 years ago, the AVMA was celebrating its 50th anniversary. Today, they're celebrating 150. So you see, you've gotten ahead of me. It's great to be here. And I'd like to relate some of my early experience with AVMA. As a student chapter leader at Michigan State, I came to Chicago in December 1940 for the AVMA, or to visit AVMA, as well as attend the United States Animal Health Association, which was a compulsory, or not quite a compulsory, but desirable activity for seniors in veterinary medicine, and I, as president of the student chapter, I met Dr. Marilette at that time, and he told me that the AVMA was going to blossom for the next 100 years and grow into a world organization, as it has. I've had the opportunity to see the AVMA grow from a small office on Michigan Avenue in Chicago to a large holding in the suburbs of Chicago. Over the years, I have presented papers, have enjoyed the hospitality of other veterinarians, and veterinary public health has come to be an important part of our activities nationally, and more fortunately, we've been able through the Pan American Health Organization and the World Health Organization. I am delighted to be here and have your recognition, and let me congratulate you and wish you many good years for your 200, which is just down the road a little further. I hope that many of you in the audience will be at that 200. I'll be waving at you wherever I am. It's great to be here. Congratulations on your 100th birthday along with my 100th birthday. 150, I should say, versus my 100. Thank you all. I forgot to say. Economic health. I wish that for all the world, may we all share in the prosperity for mankind and animal kind. Thank you all.
Okay, so all the speakers, you got my hate mail, right? Well, here's the little unit that's going to keep everybody on time, hopefully. Okay, now the first three speakers are dividing their time amongst the first 20 minutes, so I'm not even going to go there. That's like fractions. But they got to be done by 10:30. And then what this is going to do for the speakers knowledge is it's going to, when you see the green light, then you're good to go. That's going to go for about 8 minutes. Then it's going to turn yellow for 1.5 minutes, and it's going to turn red for 30 seconds. And if you're not off the podium by then, a missile launches out of the and that's it. So anyway, we appreciate everybody speaking, and please try to stay on time for the the benefit of the other speakers. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll launch this, and it'll be followed by Bill Stokes and then Hugh Mainzer, and we're going to look at some of the history because it's such an historic occasion. It's a pleasure and an honor to address Jim's challenge. I want to take the long view in this talk because we are here at the auspicious and notable 150th anniversary of the American Veterinary Medical Association. Jim has lived to be 100 years old, and so has, incredibly enough, experienced the changes and challenges that have occurred for approximately 2/3 of the existence of the AVMA, our professional organization that dates back to the middle of the Civil War. And I'll just let everybody sink that in for a second. But Professor Steele is indeed living history. At 100, he came up with the most interesting, the most unexpected, and the most obscure but thought-provoking examples in this short history. I wish to thank Russ Currier for his support, careful observation, contributions, and close reading of this collaborative work. And I would also like to thank Carol Rubin for her early reading and her support. I guess I will give away the punchline at the beginning, and although it goes against every fiber in my being, here it is. Over the centuries, the idea of one health, the notion of one medicine has waxed and waned, just as moons do and the number of veterinary schools do. We are now in a period of waxing on. In his inaugural address to the medical students at the University of Pennsylvania in 1806, Benjamin Rush, MD, argued, and I quote, "The organization of their bodies, the principles of animal life, and the manner in which remote and proximate causes of disease produce their morbid effects are the same as in the human body, and most medicines produce in them, as in us, nearly a similar operation." Dr. Rush clearly understood what one medicine was all about. Unfortunately, starting around the 1820s, ideas advocated by Dr. Rush appeared to be overshadowed by the somewhat sterile disease causation arguments. As the United States recovery from its Civil War turned into a period of growth and advancement on many fronts, many medical and veterinary practitioners again grasped a One Health perspective, as evidenced by the publication of the first volume of Public Health Papers and Reports in 1873, a predecessor of the American Journal of Public Health. The very first volume had 6 papers included in it, and one of them was by Adirama B. Judson, MD, whose paper, History and Course of the Epizootic Among Horses upon the North American Continent, in 1872 and 1873. So it was one of the 6 papers. And you can, I hope in the back you can see the quotes, but clearly if you can't, he is all over the idea of one medicine and the importance of influenza, to study influenza in horses. The One Health dimension of the great microbiological revolution can be seen in Daniel Elmer Salmon, an American veterinarian whose contributions were so multifaceted that they touch every phase of medicine, from microbiology to the advancement of diagnostic testing to field-based clinical trials and intervention studies, to the practical aspects of managing, financing, implementing the world's first intentional disease eradication program on a national scale, the regional eradication of CBDP, while reinforcing the concepts of contagion. Even though Theobald Smith, a physician on the agricultural department's team, had a tendency to get credit and attention for groundbreaking public health, from groundbreaking public health innovators such as Walter Reed, it is important to recognize that Smith was employed in the first microbiological research laboratory in the United States, which was created and managed by Daniel Elmer Salmon, a veterinarian. In 1893, the USDA team discovered that Texas fever of cattle was transmitted by a cattle tick, an arthropod vector. This is important because it was the first time in either branch of general medicine, veterinary medicine, human medicine, general medicine, that anyone put forward the concept that a disease could require an invertebrate host. K.F. Meyer, who DVM was a giant in the field of infectious disease research. In his obituary in 1974 in the New York Times, Dr. Lawrence Altman, a writer and a physician, wrote that Carl Meyer was regarded as the most versatile microbe hunter since Louis Pasteur. Although Meyer's reputation was anchored in his truly prolific research, his impact on One Health was much larger. He essentially developed the curriculum in public health for the campus, for the UC Berkeley campus between 1936 and 1939. He trained future public health officers from 15 states west of the Mississippi and laid the foundation for the UC Berkeley School of Public Health curriculum. It was so infused with microbiology that clearly he took the lead. Unfortunately, many of K.S. Meyer's accomplishments occurred during a waning period for the One Health movement, and veterinary medicine per se was struggling due to changes in veterinary schools, due to the lack of focus on the horse. It was largely an age where advances and new discoveries were seen as medical advances rather than advances in one medicine. So they were seen as medical advances rather than one medicine. The atmosphere in the 20s and 30s was so dominated by human medicine alone that sometimes Meyer used his honorary medical titles in preference to his DVM degree. The effects on One Health were long-lasting and exceptional from this period, and there were a few exceptions like Richard Shope, MD, but they were few and far between. James Harlan Steele, good morning, Jim, was a true pioneer in the rebirth of One Health. He was tenacious in his quest to enlarge the role of veterinary medicine in public health, being driven by the conviction that any avenue that can benefit the health and well-being of people led to more progressive, rational, and fair state of affairs for his community, his country, and the world. Steele set the direction, found the resources, selected and cultivated enough talented people. He literally built the first of many veterinary public health programs in the United States and the world. Dr. Steele was a systems thinker, a strategic analyst, and a magnet for bright, young, talented veterinarians, physicians, and other health professionals. He took the idea of One Health and built a framework for programs which could showcase what One Health, then named by Steele as Veterinary Public Health, could do. He recalled in 1945, at the end of World War II, Joseph Mountain, a physician-in-chief of the USPHS Bureau of State Services, met with him to discuss the global origin and importance of zoonotic disease. He challenged Steele by saying, "What are you veterinarians going to do for public health now that the war is over?" Jim Steele's first response was dynamic and vital to the future of One Health. And we are all here today to try to carry on, as Jim so often says, that particular question. And I'm very much looking forward to the results from today. From 1956 to 66, Dr. Cal Schwabe, a veterinarian, was a member of the medical and public health faculties of the American University of Beirut, where he conducted significant research on high data disease. In 1966, he established the world's first department and graduate program in epidemiology in the School of Veterinary Medicine at UC Davis. His 3 editions of veterinary medicine and human health remain the most comprehensive treatment of the interface between human and animal health. Through his teaching, writing, speaking, and training of students, Schwabe was able to lay down a rationale for and historical analysis of the principles underlying the idea of one medicine, one health. A second important concept was the adoption of the view that veterinary activities contributed to certain key societal and developmental goals across the world in multiple sectors of human activity. Schwabe boldly observed that human and veterinary medicine have always depended upon a common pool of knowledge, drawn from observations about anatomy, physiology, pathology, and the causes of disease in all species. They share the same paradigm. He also observed that, unfortunately, in contrast to late 19th century progressive thinking, human and animal disease was treated and largely funded as separate entities during most of the 20th century. And there's the slide for Cal. Steele and Schwabe stood out as committed advocates for One Health. Although separated in age by a decade and a half, and both attended Harvard School of Public Health, in different eras, they had big megaphones which they used to advocate for the acceptance of the idea of One Health, and launched our current era of the waxing of One Health in the first decade of the 21st century. However, history would suggest we are at a dangerous junction. Bricks and mortar programs with funding and line functions must be firmly established the way Jim did, and not de-emphasized owing to recent economic and other constraints. Much remains to be done. We probably need inputs, maybe from a charitable foundation with vision at this point. Finally, a historical examination of the waxing and the waning of One Health activities highlights the fact that the fundamental idea of One Health is tremendously resilient. One Health bounces back because it's relevant. Over the centuries, no matter how out of fashion One Health may be when intractable problems or periods of great progress come upon us, One Health is reinvented or reinvigorated as Steele and Schwabe have done for us. Upon reflection, we shouldn't really be surprised that One Health will shine through, because logically, it's in our DNA. It's in our ecology. Our epidemiology reveals it, and our bench research confirms it. We just need to nurture it. Structures for intersectorial collaboration are the key. And thank you very much for your attention. No questions, and Bill, you're on next.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for the opportunity to make a few brief remarks to set the stage for this James Steele Challenge session, Making a Better World from One Health. Special thanks to Craig Carter and Karen Becker for all their work and especially applying the high technology to have Jim, who's sitting here watching me from the computer. Good morning, Jim. I'm Bill Stokes and a graduate of the Ohio State University College of Veterinary Medicine. I grew up on a farm in Kentucky with the dream of becoming a large animal practitioner. But those of you that know me know that never ever occurred in my career. Instead, like Jim Steele, serendipity led me to spend my entire career working to improve human health. While Jim focused on epidemiology, I've worked in biomedical research at the National Institutes of Health and in the U.S. Army. But like Jim, I have had the privilege of serving as the Assistant Surgeon General and also as the Chief Veterinary Officer in the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps. However, none of this would have occurred had it not been for Jim, and the fact that Jim didn't mind being a bit of an oddity in our profession some 70 years ago. After all, at that time, it was rather preposterous to think that there would be any value in a veterinarian going to Harvard to get a Master of Public Health, and I'm sure that many thought that his veterinary training would just be wasted. Even after his Harvard training, he had to be commissioned in the Public Health Service as a sanitarian because there were no veterinarians in the Public Health Service and they weren't recognized as such. Well, Jim's ability to successfully address zoonotic disease problems were quickly recognized by the Surgeon General. We all know that Jim has a keen ability to recognize opportunities and to take advantage of those opportunities. So in 1947, when he proposed that there should be veterinary positions in the Public Health Service, the Surgeon General agreed and established a new veterinary medical category. Thanks to Jim's efforts, the Public Health Service has grown to become one of the premier One Health organizations in the world. Most importantly, thousands of veterinarians now work to advance human health in federal and state governments, academia, and industry. The theme of our session today is the Jim Steele Challenge, a better world through One Health. We gather here today to reflect on the past contributions of veterinarians to animals and human health, and this has made life better and longer for both people and animals. But we also want to talk about what we will do in the future and how we can do it better in a way that will have the greatest impact. The record speaks for itself in the key roles that Jim and so many other veterinarians have served in contributing to human health milestones. For example, someone born today will enjoy a life expectancy that is over 50% longer than it was when Jim was born. And much of this is due to advancements in prevention, public health, and treatments and prevention strategies. So today, Jim is passing on his challenge to all of us and asking, what are you veterinarians going to do for public health now? All of us who have known Jim and worked with him have already experienced the Jim Steele Challenge firsthand. We've benefited from his special gift of encouraging and challenging us to do more and greater things, and we've all been inspired and motivated by his leadership. As we reflect on his accomplishments, it's clear that leadership will continue to be an important attribute for our profession to strengthen its impact on health. Leadership is exemplified by all of you in this room in one way or another, but especially Dr. Roger Mars exemplified this. Roger, as a private practitioner, growing up on a dairy farm, and also serving as our AVMA president a few years ago, provided a vision for revitalizing the One Health concept. Thanks to his tireless efforts, the AVMA established a One Health task force, which led to today's National One Health Commission. At this meeting, we've seen the rollout of the AVMA's new initiative called Partners for Healthy Pets. I don't think anybody could have missed that. If we are successful in meeting Jim's One Health challenge, then we will transform this message into Partners for Healthy Pets and Healthy People. Recently, the U.S. Surgeon General rolled out the National Prevention Strategy, an initiative of the National Prevention Council that she chaired, and whose members include all of the cabinet-level secretaries and several other agency heads. This initiative seeks to change our healthcare system from a focus on disease and treatment to one focused on health promotion, prevention, and wellness. Does this sound familiar? Yes, of course. It's very much like the Healthy Pets initiative of the AVMA. Well, we all know that pets and people share many of the same chronic diseases and health issues, such as diabetes and obesity. We also know that pets can contribute to better health for people, from lowering blood pressure to increasing physical activity when they walk their dogs. Veterinarians can and should use their knowledge to promote health and wellness for both their patients and their clients. In the course of history, Jim Steele and our veterinary profession have shown that as partners in health, we can and have had profound impact on improving the health of animals and people. We've done this through research, public health, clinical practice, and education. The opportunity for our profession to have an even greater impact on solving the health challenges of the future is at our doorstep, and we should open that door and welcome the challenge. Jim, thank you for your enduring challenge. We will indeed heed your charge to carry on. And I hope that in the near future we can show you that the entire veterinary profession is, to borrow an expression from the poker table, all in. So thank you for your attention.
Dr. Hugh Mainzer.
Morning, Dr. Steele. Thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here. I'm Hugh Mainzer. I'm the 9th Chief Veterinary Officer of the Public Health Service, Jim Steele being the first. And I bring the greetings of the 10th Chief Veterinary Officer, Captain Terry Clark, as well as our Acting Surgeon General, Dr. Boris Lushniak. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be a veterinarian. It's an exciting time to be involved in public health. I borrow a few slides. One of them shows that our world is constantly changing. We're moving between borders every day, quickly. The cruise ships of yesterday are being added to by the cruise ships of today. The photo on the left is of the ship Becker. I don't know how many are familiar with it. It's a cruise ship for animals. So these animals are going between Australia and Indonesia, and there are other ships around the world that are carrying animals from places to places, and with them brings new technology, new economics, new diseases, new challenges for public health. Many of you are familiar with the word clouds. There's a word cloud that came up from the UN and their disaster risk reduction activity. And here are the issues, the topics, the words, the keywords that are challenges for the future. And some of them we're dealing with today, but some of them we're just at the cusp of being involved in as a veterinary profession. The economic and human impact of disasters, this is just in the last 12 years. Actually, it only goes till 2011, doesn't include Hurricane Sandy. $1.3 trillion in damage worldwide, 2.7 billion people affected, 1.1 million killed. I'm sure if we had animals, we don't have the data on the animal impact, but I'm sure those numbers would be even greater. That is a challenge. That is an issue that we're dealing with, that public health is dealing with today. Not just the veterinary profession, but all of public health. And I'm hoping that the challenge for the next 50 years is to move from one medicine to one health to all health. Because that really is the challenge for us as a profession and for all of public health. The challenges we have today are many. Some of them may seem like dog and pony shows. We're a veterinary audience, so there's a dog and a pony for you there. But our emergencies, our disasters are becoming more and more complex, whether it's the zombie apocalypse, which is actually encouraging many to become more prepared, to emerging infectious diseases, to a changing climate that's causing more and more complex and more frequent natural disasters. This is a picture of the pump handle, and I'm going to have to hand in my epi card today because as an epidemiologist, we may have failed a little bit. If you think about the pump handle, and it's the symbol of the Epidemic Intelligence Service, which me and many in this room have participated in. But if you think back on John Snow charted out where the disease, where cholera was occurring back in the 1800s. But if you look at the impact of what he did, it wasn't until 10 years later, until the engineers, Baltier and others, came in, that cholera actually decreased. So while Snow, the father of epidemiology, did the counting, it wasn't until the numbers were tied into action that cholera, the incidence of cholera in London, actually went down. So epidemiology is just one piece of the puzzle, and veterinarians are an important piece of not only counting, not only of detecting, but coming up with sustainable solutions to today and tomorrow's public health issues. From my perspective, an outbreak or an emergency public health response may actually reflect missed opportunities to plan and practice good prevention. And it may evidence an inadequate understanding of the vulnerabilities in a population or of a public health system. And we as veterinarians play an important role along with our medical colleagues, our dental colleagues, our nursing colleagues, our environmental health specialist colleagues, our engineering colleagues, to come up with an all-health response to how to do disease prevention better. Public health ahead is going to be more involved with not just responding to emerging threats, but to protecting and improving population health. We need to return our populations, human and animal, and the physical environment to a state of health. Health being the complete mental, physical, and social condition of well-being. We need to keep populations healthy, and we need to decrease population vulnerabilities to emerging and existing health threats. Thanks to Dr. Conti, Dr. Lisa Conti, who is now the Deputy Agriculture Commission in Florida, she had gotten a text from 2600 BC from Huangdi, the Nanqing. It's even older than you, Dr. Steele, by just a few hundred, maybe a few thousand years. But I modified it a little bit today to say that superior public health practitioners of the future, we're going to be expected to prevent disease, to prevent population exposure, and to prevent disability from occurring. If we are decent public health practitioners, we will be able to do, as we do today, an outstanding and excellent job of intervening before disease threats spread. And if we don't do our job well, if we don't respond to the challenges, we're going to just be able to respond to full-blown epidemics. Protecting animal and human health, that is our job. This picture here of Commander Greg Langham, one of our public health officers, this tells me a lot of the future role that we play in veterinary medicine. By giving anthelmintics to the pigs, by teaching the children in a Peruvian town, he's showing that veterinarians, that animal health is important. What you don't see behind the picture is Dr. Langham was a part of a team. There were engineers that were working on the water supply that was contaminated, which was giving parasites to the animals. He was part of a team of nurses, of dietitians that was working with the population to make sure that the children were getting adequate nutrition and adequate dental care for the adults in the community. So veterinarians, we are going to be playing a very important role, and we're going to have to do that not by coordination, but by collaboration with our other health professions. The need is great for veterinarians to build, protect, and maintain the availability of safe, secure, and adequate supply systems, both in terms of food and in terms of raw materials for clothing, such as wool. We need to be more involved with the interrelated environmental systems. We have to understand as a profession, we have to work with engineers to understand how waste is managed, not only from farm to fork, but from feed to waste material to final product. We need to understand the interaction of air quality, water quality, and we need to know where waste goes from the animals that we care for. There's a lot of issues that are coming up. We're now dealing with a new environment. We've spent a lot of time dealing with animals in the land, the terrestrial, and the environment, and the air. But we're now needing to understand the aquatic environment. Right now, we have an outbreak, a cluster of Haft's disease. How many know what Haft's disease is? It's a toxin in fish, and we're seeing these clusters a little more frequently, and it's a little difficult to detect these because they're not often tested to. These aren't emerging infectious diseases, these are chemical toxicants. And when it occurs in a freshwater fish, we have to scratch our heads a little bit because we don't know whether these contaminations are occurring naturally or whether there's some intentional activity or an activity as in the industrialization of our fish protein supply activities. We need to be more concerned with the quality of our air. We need to be more concerned about the quality of our water. We need to be more concerned with the interaction between our human and our animal communities. It's not just the human-animal bond, but more and more as we're worried more about developing healthy communities, we as veterinarians are going to need to play a more important role in understanding and developing interventions for chronic disease. And of course, we know the important bond that animals share with people. The mental health issues that occur in many of these communities that are impacted by natural disasters such as drought, such as hurricanes, but also day to day. Veterinary medicine and health is an important component of what we need as a society and a population. Yes, we have emerging threats. We have natural disasters ranging from oil spills to pandemics to acts of terror to floods to earthquakes. There's a group of us, and Dr. Steele was the first veterinary public health service veterinarian, but he came from a long tradition. In 1863, when the AVMA was formed, our first supervising surgeon, John Maynard Woodworth, was in the Union Army, the Army of Tennessee, with General Sherman, and he saw the need for protecting public health in the public hospitals. And he changed the way America thought about hygiene and public health. In 1889, the Public Health Service was established, and in October 1947, the veterinary category was formed. And if you look at the top picture, you'll see in 1905 in New Orleans, there was a group of white male Public Health Service physicians. 100 years later in New Orleans, you can see Admiral Stokes and a group of Public Health Service veterinarians who were responding to Hurricane Katrina. We've become a diverse profession. We've become a diverse service. And that's also important for us to recognize and develop in our public health threats. Veterinary medicine has an impact as part of an all-health team. And we work with our sister services in the Army, and we work with our sister organizations, whether it be the UN, WHO, FAO, with states, with territories, with local communities, to ensure that veterinary medicine is a part of this all-health team. I thank you for your attention this morning. Welcome to the all-health team. It is the next challenge for the next 50 years. And Dr. Steele, the 200th anniversary of AVMA will mark my 100th year of life. So I'm hoping to be waving at you wherever you are in 50 years. That is my hope. And I thank you for all that you have taught me. I thank you for all that you have mentored both me and many others. And I thank all of you who continue to teach me and help me every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mainzer. For the purpose of time, I'm not introducing all of our very distinguished speakers. They all deserve special introductions, but they're going to be doing it themselves. But I do want to mention Dr. McCulloch, our next speaker, received the Golden Cane Award this morning.
Well, this is another thrill today to follow up with one of my former graduate students, Hugh Mainzer. Another graduate student, Craig Carter, is keeping in time, so I may be in trouble today, but hopefully not, Craig. This paper focuses on the human-animal bond as an integral part of the One Health concept. To understand and predict the future, we must give honor to the past, which here are doing through you, Dr. Jim Steele, and the building blocks of the future, in our case, veterinary public health in the 21st century. The original Delta Foundation in 1977 became the Delta Society in 1981. It was patterned after the One Health concept of many health professions, including public representatives on the board. In 1976, a government report of the description of veterinarians' role in human health, headed by the late R.K. Anderson. My late brother, Dr. Michael McCulloch, a psychiatrist, wrote the chapter on the veterinarian's role in mental and emotional health, and it became one of the recommendations. 1979, the late Norman Heidelbaugh, head of veterinary public health at Texas A&M, took my suggestion and included mental and emotional health as one of the department goals. It was during that period that Jim Steele asked me to give the J.B. Irons Memorial Lecture in Houston, Texas. The title was Veterinary Medicine and the Human-Animal Bond. Even though his focus was on zoonotic diseases, Jim Steele was a visionary that understood we needed to further explore this area called the human-animal bond, and that Dr. Mainzer just alluded to. The late Calvin Schwabe, who you've seen some pictures of already, added a chapter on mental health in the final and third edition of Veterinary Medicine and Human Health in 1984. Now, what's happened in the past 6 years to further explore human-animal bonds as far as veterinary epidemiology and veterinary public health? 2007, then AVMA President Dr. Roger Marr, who's sitting down here in the second row, initiated the AVMA One Health Initiative. Members of that commission interviewed me and one of my colleagues about the emotional, mental, and human health responsibilities of our veterinary profession and One Health. It was listed in their final report. About simultaneously, Laura Kahn, MD, Bruce Kaplan, DDM, and Tom Monath, MD, initiated the One Health in Action series. Members of the series of papers in 2007. One of the papers he asked me to do was titled One Health Concept, the Human-Animal Bond as a Collaborative Model. The reason that this author was involved with Dr. Kaplan's effort was having Dr. Craig Carter, a former graduate student, mention my interest in One Health to him. The rest is history. In 2009, Dr. Carter, with the assistance of Dr. Hoover, published the first edition of the book, The One Man, One Medicine, One Health, the James H. Steele story, after 15 years of effort. The new edition will be coming out later this year to celebrate Dr. Steele's 100th birthday. Finally, through the leadership of Rebecca Johnson, PhD RN, and Roger Marr, the AVMA, or I should say the American Association of Human-Animal Bond Veterinarians, co-sponsored the International Association of Human-Animal Interactions Organizations that went on yesterday and is going on today. And certainly that is a real example, having that interdisciplinary going on in this AVMA meeting on its 150th anniversary. Predictions and recommendations for the future include but are not limited to the following. As a former infectious disease researcher in zoonotic diseases, I always like Louis Pasteur's quote, who said, "Chance favors the prepared mind." And that's a lot of what we're doing in the Jim Steele Challenge today, is now to prepare us and prepare a lot of other people in veterinary public health about the future. We must plan a review and assessment of a workshop to determine where we are in veterinary education and teaching of veterinary public health, including human-animal interactions. 1973, we had a PAHO seminar on veterinary medicine and developed the first competency-based curriculum in veterinary medicine, which was in veterinary public health. And my question is, we ought to review that just to see where we've come since 1973 on recommendation that came out of that PAHO WHO report. We need to mobilize veterinarians to become more involved in councils, organizations, and policy-making groups that can influence human-animal bond studies and the continuing need for research to explore future efforts. We are talking about veterinarians becoming involved We need to also be aware of cultural differences in how animals are viewed and used throughout the world. One of the things that we do have is a number of veterinary practitioners that get involved in this area, one being Dr. Greg Takashima, a Portland veterinarian practitioner who's president-elect of the American Association of Human Animal Bond Veterinarians. We need to encourage more veterinarians to become involved in this area, and it starts with education in our veterinary colleges. Here's where the rubber hits the road. You want to find out just whether human animal bonds in a curriculum, having been an educator and chairman of the AVMA Council of Education many years ago. We've got to examine the value of human animal bond mental and emotional health by looking at the exam questions in such boards as the American College of Veterinary Preventive Medicine. I've heard a lot of people that taught zoonotic disease in veterinary schools as clinicians say, oh, we cover toxoplasmosis. Give me your exam. That's the moment of truth. It's like looking where your heart is, check your checkbook. So we do need to look at that, and even with our American Veterinary Epidemiology Society that we have, is to look at some of the phrases and things there, the human-animal bond or interaction involved. Whether it's rabies controlled or not, there's still humans involved, and obviously in that human-animal interaction. So the other question I might say, and look for the future, is who among the current active veterinarians in veterinary public health are involved in setting priorities for healthy people 2020? Do we have any involved? Several veterinarians were involved in the Healthy People 2010 with the areas of veterinary public health and the human-animal bond and where that would fit, including one of the letters that I sent to the editor of the AVMA. At that time, the whole team was veterinarians and public health were conspicuously absent. Let's hope not for the future of 2020. In summary, Jim Steele, for your challenge, I feel that One Health is a concept and epidemiology is a method for collaborative success on behalf of human, animal, and environmental health worldwide. It must include the area of human-animal interactions. Let's get on with it. There are no endings, just new beginnings. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Russell Currier, and I want you to know I'm past president of the American Veterinary Medical History Society. And I encourage you all to consider joining that organization. I'm speaking on behalf of Dr. Andrew Namias, and he could not join us today, and I'm filling in for him. He's a friend and colleague of Jim, with whom I've shared many experiences such as EIS and CDC and many mutual interests, and will now hear, what you hear now is basically narrated by Dr. Andy Namias. And you see him there on the right, and of course Jim, our good friend, on the other side. I've experienced a great privilege in my career of having Jim Steele as my mentor at CDC in the late 50s, as well as for many One Health interactions over the following decades. What I would like to do now is expand further our shared bond between pediatrics and veterinary medicine, including their historical and evolutionary links, with the purpose of extending the now commonly used concept of predictive health to that of predictive One Health. My focus is on microbiological agents and immune responses as regards our individual patient, as I'm certain others here will address the public health, zoonotic, emerging, infectious aspects of One Health. I can perhaps best set the stage by noting some well-known historical examples of this common bond, which I call of cows, chickens, and children. Calvin Schwabe, who with Jim and others revived the concept of a One Health, has recounted in his book how progress in medicine over thousands of years was achieved by the common practices in humans, cows, and other animals by the same individuals, often a priest. Jenners linking cowpox in children helped to pioneer vaccines, a very important component of the preventive mission of veterinarians, pediatricians, and public health practitioners. Furthermore, the successful eradication of smallpox several decades ago has been followed by the more recent global eradication of the cow rinderpest, prompting the possibility of eradicating also the closely related measles virus in children. Another great success has been the development of cancer vaccines, pioneered 4 to 5 decades ago by the vaccine to prevent the Marek's cancer, herpes virus, and others, and followed by 2 cancer-preventing vaccines in humans, the hepatitis B vaccine, mostly administered to babies, and the papillomavirus vaccine to adolescents. It was also in chickens that a pediatrician, Max Cooper, now at Emory University, differentiated the B cells of the bursa fabricius and the T cells of the thymus, representing the adaptive immune system that developed around 500 million years ago in vertebrates. Max Cooper more recently reviewed the evolution and development, that's evo-devo for short, of the innate immune system, such as the toll-like receptors found in Drosophila flies and in all later animals. Our recent review with 2 other pediatricians on the evo-devo interactions of the pregnant female placenta, fetus, and newborn during gestation indicates that the innate immune system develops earlier in the human fetus than does the adaptive immunity. In this case, ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. The review cited in the slide explores some of the similarities and differences between animals and humans regarding several other aspects of gestation. Many of these, I believe, would be of interest to therapologists, veterinary microbiologists, and immunologists in the quest for further knowledge on the commonalities and differences between humans and different mammalian species.